Coach Massi here from Massi-Machado Strength and Conditioning, and down here, Coach Massi here from Massi-Machado Strength and Conditioning, and these are your feet. Well, they're actually not your feet, they're Chris's feet, and this is another episode of Move Your Feet. It's the video series where we take a look at the ideas of dynamic capacity and how we program the underlying performance elements to culminate together for being able to manage your anatomical components and biomechanics with or without resistance at game or light speed performance and really well. So today we're going to take a look at a movement. It's just called a drop push. It's basically a base agility movement that starts to have us learn about ground acquisition as we move through space. So Chris is here with me today, baseball guy, and we're going to talk about this drop push, and it's really simple. I'd like to keep this informal, so we're going to talk a little bit about this. And Chris, you've been doing this movement for a little bit now. And basically what we've been learning is we've been learning to utilize both the inside and outside edges of our feet. Much like a skater has an inside and outside edge of their blade, believe it or not, we really have to be cognizant about an inside and outside edge of our foot. We've heard the first step reference ad nauseum, and I think actually what people are trying to say is that initial proactive movement, what you want to do, and that initial reactive movement is what you do in response to stimuli. Either way, we're going to learn to manage our lateral movement, which will later on translate through progressions as it pertains to this drop push. So the first thing we're going to do is a zero load, and Chris is going to basically demonstrate this a lot better than me. He's just going to basically get in a good playing position, ready position. He's going to drop his foot, push, and he's going to catch. So let's take a look at an athlete do this. So he gets his hinges and angles in a ready position. He can even mimic his sport if he wants to, just kind of be open a little bit with your hands. And he can go. And do it the opposite way. Good. Now slow it down a little bit, and let's take a look and see if he's maintaining his angles. We don't want him to decompensate or wind up over his knee so he can't come back the other way. So let's give that another shot. Cool. Really super simple, like elemental. Like what are we doing this for? Well, believe it or not, if you do this progression, little by little, you'll be better at acquiring your ground contact and utilizing that ground reaction force to lend it to the movement. One of the simplest ways we can progress this and make sure he's being honest on his lower kinetic chain, we're going to take a regular old Perform Better Extreme Medicine Ball, and we're going to just chuck it in his hands. What we're going to do is we're going to have him hug it. So what we're doing by having him hug it now is we're removing any arm assistance he's relying on. That'll come back later. We do need to utilize upper extremities, lower extremities, upper kinetic chain, lower kinetic chain. But for now, just so he can get a real feel for his feet, hugging the ball, same movement, Chris. And back. Again. And again. Okay, pretty good. Listen, not rocket science, right? But we did progress it to that. So the next thing we can do is we like to utilize the tsunami bar. The tsunami bar is a flexible barbell, and it really helps to build inter and intramuscular coordination. It gives me some diagnostic feedback because there's a little reactivity in it, actually a lot of reactivity, and we're going to start on the back first. The proper progression here would be for him to just trap load or back load that because it's a little easier in what he's going to do here. But what you're going to see that's going to be really interesting is as he moves through this movement, we're going to look for some feedback from that bar and see if even just 5 pounds per side starts to knock him off base a little bit. Let's go, Chris. Hit it. Cool. He's got a nice rhythm to the bar, so that will tell you he's really utilizing that ground reaction force to his benefit. And that's really good in basically creating, borrowing, and lending force to that movement. To make it a little more difficult, we're going to take it overhead. We're going to go to a Zercher loaded position. And he's going to pull it tight. By him pulling it tight, it's going to allow that bar to really work. You're going to get the amplitude, you're going to get the oscillation. What we really like about this is we can put a dozen or so athletes on these small bars, have them do this progression all together, and get feedback across the room just by seeing who maintains horizon, who loses horizon, who has really good reactivity on the bar, or who's just kind of walking through the motions. Also notice, every time he makes the movement, he's back to a ready or a power pillar position, looking smart, looking ready to go. Go ahead. Good. Now, let's put a little speed into that, Chris. Wasn't prepared for that. Go ahead. Pop. Good. Good. Stop. Now, as you can see, starting to struggle a little bit, but that's okay. That's cool. He starts to have his base leak out, leak out, leak out. So what I really like to progress this movement with is these flexible barbells, because it starts to make you become what I call biomechanically honest. You have to be able to manage that bar, otherwise it starts handing you rear end a little bit. And that's okay, because that reactivity will lend to actual movement efficacy. We're going to work more on this movement and other movements, but more importantly, on May 18th, I'm going to have a one-day seminar at the Perform Better Functional Training Institute. It's going to be 8 hours. And it's not just going to be about flexible barbell training, it's not just going to be about speed, not just going to be about agility. It's actually called Developing the Modern Athlete and Client. And we're going to have a business module in it. If you have your own business or you work for somebody, you aspire to have your own training, athletic development business, we're going to talk about the minutiae behind that and how to progress and develop in your career. We're going to talk about developing the modern athlete and client from the ground up, including the challenges both the trainer, coach, and the actual athlete face today, whether it be financial, time bar, just mental issues. When I say mental issues, making sure that we as the coach lead our clients and athletes with a real strong psychological foundation and really emotionally nurture our clients and athletes also. So once again, May 18th at Perform Better in Warwick, Rhode Island. There's early bird registration now, but hopefully you can join me for 8 hours of a lot of fun too. It's really going to extract some things out of you guys that you don't even know you have. You're going to immerse yourselves in this type of thing, and I'm going to learn something about myself also. Show up at that seminar and find out if I really do have any hair under this hat. That would be a novel thing, right? All right, guys, until next time, Coach Massi, Massi-Machado, Strength and Conditioning, out.